2 Samuel and chapter number 2. The title of the message this morning is, You Are Bringing Others Along for the Ride. You are bringing others along for the ride. Last Sunday morning, preached a message entitled, Beware What You Pursue. You just might catch it. And with that principle in mind, I want to add to it and say this morning, you're going to drag others along for the ride. Let's begin reading in chapter number 2, verse number 18. We're going to reread to verse 24. We read it last week, but I want to go back over it just so it's fresh in your mind. It says, verse number 18, And there were 3 sons of Zeruiah. You can pronounce that Zeruiah or whatever. I don't think he cares anymore. But there were 3 sons of Zeruiah there, Joab and Abishai and Asahel. And Asahel was as light of foot as a wild roe, or as a wild deer. He was as fast as a deer. Verse number 19. And Asahel pursued after Abner, and in going he turned not to the right hand nor to the left from following Abner. Then Abner looked behind him and said, Art thou Asahel? And he answered, I am. And Abner said to him, Turn thee aside to thy right hand or to thy left, and lay thee hold on one of the young men, and take thee his armor. But Asahel would not turn aside from following him. And Abner said again to Asahel, Turn thee aside from following me. Wherefore should I smite thee to the ground? How then should I hold up my face to Joab thy brother? Notice that. He says, How will I hold up my face to Joab thy brother? Howbeit, Asahel refused to turn aside. Wherefore Abner, with the hinder end of the spear, smote him under the 5th rib, that the spear came out behind him. And he fell down there and died in the same place. And it came to pass that as many as came to the place where Asahel fell down and died, they stood still. It says in verse 24, Joab also and Abishai pursued after Abner, and the sun went down when they were come to the hill of Ammah that lieth before Giah by the way of the wilderness of Gibeon. And so with that in mind, we're going to take a look at that at this again this morning. One thing I want you to be more familiar with in your Bible study is with these men, Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. Now this is pretty much the only chapter that really gives us anything on Asahel. Okay, this is all we get of him. We find out he was really fast. And we find out he was a little bit too stubborn. We find out that when he should have listened to wise counsel, he didn't. And, last week I was trying to emphasize that, and I was trying to point out that we need to beware of what we pursue, because we just might catch it. Sometimes things look like a good idea, and sometimes things look like they'd be worth pursuing, and we need to be careful, because God might just let us catch it, and it's not what we thought it was. It's not going to be at all what we had in mind. But included in this truth is you're going to drag others along for the ride. I want you to hold your place here because we're coming back, but turn over to Proverbs real quick, and chapter number 4. And I want to share a verse with you that kind of, to me, phrases it a little differently, but it's a verse that I keep on my mind a lot. And this is probably why, because I didn't even realize that the next verse says, "Turn not to the right hand nor to the left." But in Proverbs chapter 4, look at verse 27, the last verse of the chapter. It says, "Turn not to the right hand nor to the left; remove thy foot from evil." But look at verse 26. The Bible says, Ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. Ponder the path of thy feet. I would encourage everyone this morning to ponder the path of your feet. We need to ponder the path of our feet every day. Okay, we need to think about the direction we're heading in. We need to think about what we're pursuing. We need to think about what we're trying to accomplish in our life. We need to think about the path of our feet. We need to ponder that path. Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount talked about a narrow path. He talked about a broad path. We need to think about the path that we're on. We need to think about the path of our feet. Asahel should have stopped and thought about the pursuit, the path that he was on, and it might have saved his life. Okay, so why do we ponder the path of our feet? Well, first of all, Asahel died. If we're not careful, it can literally lead to all kinds of destruction, but it can lead to our very death. All right, if we're not careful. We see teenagers all the time, right? Those in here that are older than teenage years. I'm not picking on teenagers. Do not take this the wrong way. I was a teenager once. That's why I understand. See, when I was a teenager, let me tell you how I was. I knew everything. I knew everything. Everything. You couldn't tell me nothing. I had it all figured out. I understood everything about everybody. I understood my parents were stupid. I knew my parents didn't have a clue what was going on in my life. I understood that the adults in my life didn't have a clue what was going on in my life. And I had to become an adult to realize I was way wrong when I was a teenager and I thought that way. No one could tell me anything. No one could give me instruction. I had to learn a lot of things the hard way because I did not stop and ponder the path of my feet. I did not stop and think about the directions I was heading in. I didn't stop and think about the decisions I was making in my life. I wish I had just stopped and thought about things and thought them through. I wish I wouldn't have cared so much about peer pressure. Cared so much about what people my age thought of me. People your age, the older you get, the more you realize their opinion really doesn't matter of you. The only thing that really matters is God's opinion. I preached a funeral of a guy that I grew up with. We were in high school together just 6 months ago. I learned a long time ago his opinion of me really doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm simply I'm just using that as an example. That's just one of many. All right, there's so many. I don't have time to go into all of it. But if I could just encourage you to really stop and ponder the path of your feet, it can lead to your death. It can. And as unpleasant as that is to think about, I got to warn you about that. But also, though, if that's not enough, there were certain decisions I made in my life, I knew they could lead to my death. I knew that. I made them anyway. Because I would convince myself I wasn't hurting anybody but me. Right? It would make people say that all the time, right? Don't they? I'm not hurting anybody but me. This decision isn't affecting anyone. You're so wrong. You say, how can you know? Because everyone that's ever said that matters to somebody. You matter to someone. There's going to be somebody that you matter to. There's someone, even if you don't think you matter to them, I promise you, you matter to them. You do. The decisions you make, you're going to drag others along for the ride. You're going to. Here, Asahel has two brothers. Asahel dies right here. Do you think that's going to affect them? Son of Zeruiah? Do you think it's going to affect Zeruiah? Yeah, it's going to affect them. It's going to affect countless family members that aren't even mentioned here. It's going to affect them. Man, I wish Asahel would have just listened and stopped. Later on, here's what we find happens. Let's go back to 2 Samuel and look at chapter number 3. Look at verse number 17. Now, it says, and Abner, who didn't want to kill Asahel, he didn't want to kill him. And Abner had communication with the elders of Israel, saying, ye sought for David in times past to be king over you. Now then do it. So he's switching sides. He's switching sides to David's side. It says, for the Lord had spoken of David, saying, by the hand of my servant David, I will save my people Israel out of the hand of the Philistines and out of the hand of all their enemies. And Abner also spake in the ears of the tribe of Benjamin. And Abner went also to speak in the ears of David in Hebron, all that seemed good to Israel, and that seemed good to the whole house of Benjamin. So Abner came to David to Hebron, and 20 men with him. And David made Abner and the men that were with him a feast. So David and Abner sit down. They grill burgers. They get a ice chest full of soda. They have a good time. Okay, they have an enjoyable feast. It says verse 21, and Abner said unto David, I will arise and go, and will gather all Israel unto my lord the king, unto you, David, that they may make a league with thee, and that thou mayest reign over all that thine heart desireth. And David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. And so David and Abner make peace here. David is Joab and Abishai's and Asahel's boss. Okay? It says in verse 22, and behold, the servants of David and Joab came from pursuing a troop, and brought in a great spoil with them. But Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he was gone in peace. When Joab and all the host that was with him were come, they told Joab, saying, Abner the son of Ner came to the king, and he hath sent him away, and he is gone in peace. So Joab finds out what has happened here. Then Joab came to the king and said, What hast thou done? Behold, Abner came unto thee. Why is it that thou hast sent him away? He is quite gone. Thou knowest Abner the son of Ner, that he came to deceive thee, and to know thy going out and thy coming in, and to know all that thou doest. When Joab was come out from David, he sent messengers after Abner, which brought him again from the well of Sirah, but David knew it not. David didn't know this. Verse 27, when Abner was returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him quietly. He's fooling him here. And smote him there under the 5th rib, that he died. And it tells us why. He wasn't worried about him being a spy. It says, for the blood of Asahel, his brother. That's why he did it. If Asahel hadn't made the decisions he made, Joab might not have made this decision. You could make a case Joab wouldn't have done this. We've got to be careful of our decisions, because we are carrying others along for the ride. It says in verse 28, afterward when David heard it, he said, I and my kingdom are guiltless before the Lord forever from the blood of Abner the son of Ner. Let it rest on the head of Joab and on all his father's house. This is quite a curse. And let there not fail from the house of Joab. That's his children, his lineage. One that hath an issue, one that hath a health issue of some sort, or that is a leper, or that leaneth on a staff, or that falleth on the sword, or that lacketh bread. David curses his whole household. You're carrying others along for the ride. Boy, if Joab had thought that through. David, in the power of God, curses his whole household. Ooh, his whole lineage. It says verse 30, so Joab and Abishai his brother slew Abner, because he had slain their brother Asahel at Gibeon in the battle. And David said to Joab and to all the people that were with him, rend your clothes and gird you with sackcloth and mourn before Abner. And King David himself followed the bier. The bed that they've got him laid on, the dead body, in the funeral procession. David walked right before it. It says in verse 32, and they buried Abner in Hebron. And the king lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Abner, and all the people wept. And the king lamented over Abner, and said, died Abner as a fool dieth? Thy hands were not bound, nor thy feet put into fetters, as a man falleth before wicked men. So fell as that. In other words, he's saying Abner was a brave man. He was better than the man that killed him. And all the people wept again over him. Verse 35, and when all the people came to cause David to eat meat while it was yet day, David sware, saying, so do God to me, and more also, if I taste bread or aught else till the sun be down. In other words, he said, I'm not touching food. He was mourning. He said, I'm not touching food till tonight. Not till the sun goes down. The reason he's doing that is he's trying to show the people, I really do care about Abner. This is not a show. This is not a political move. I hate that this happened. I'm not pleased. That's what David is showing them. Verse 36, and all the people took notice of it, and it pleased them, as whatsoever the king did pleased all the people. For all the people and all Israel understood that day that it was not of the king to slay Abner the son of Ner. And the king said unto his servants, know ye not that there is a prince and a great man fallen this day in Israel? And I am this day weak, though anointed king. And these men, the sons of Zeruiah, be too hard for me. The Lord shall reward the doer of evil according to his wickedness. It's quite a curse. It's quite a curse that hangs over their head. Flip ahead to 1 Kings. Because then you read the rest of the story of David, the rest of 2 Samuel, and it seems like him and Joab get along pretty good. Joab does a lot of things for him after that. A lot of things. But look at 1 Kings in chapter 2. Look at 1 Kings is when David is dying. The very beginning of 1 Kings is when David is at the end of his life and he's dying, and he is choosing Solomon as his heir. But look at chapter 2. He's talking to Solomon in this chapter. David is communicating with Solomon. Look at verse number 5. David says to Solomon, moreover, thou knowest also what Joab the son of Zeruiah did to me, and what he did to the two captains of the hosts of Israel, unto Abner the son of Ner, and unto Amasa the son of Jether. Amasa was Absalom's general. Very similar thing. Joab pulls him off to the side and kills him too. Commits murder. Whom he slew and shed the blood of war, notice this, in peace, when there was peace. And put the blood of war upon his girdle, that was about his loins, and in his shoes that were on his feet. Do therefore according to thy wisdom, and let not his forehead, his white head, go down to the grave in peace. In other words, David says, Solomon, don't let him die a peaceful death. He seems to have really carried this along, doesn't he? That's quite a charge to give to Solomon. Look at verse 26 of the same chapter. It says, unto Abiathar the priest said King Solomon, get thee to Anathoth unto thine own fields, for thou art worthy of death. Hold on. I don't want to read all that. He's talking about Abiathar the priest. Okay, verse 28. Look at verse 28. Then tidings came to Joab, for Joab had turned after Adonijah, though he turned not after Absalom. And Joab fled from the tabernacle of the Lord and caught hold on the horns of the altar. So he goes and hides in the church. If someone was after you to kill you, it's a pretty good place to hide. Verse 29. And it was told King Solomon that Joab was fled unto the tabernacle of the Lord, and behold, he is by the altar. Then Solomon sent Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada. This guy Benaiah is a very interesting man. He's one of David's mighty men. It talks about him in the book of 2 Samuel. He killed 2 lion-like men of Moab, it says. It says that he killed a lion in a pit on a snowy day. How about you walk into a pit and kill a lion with your bare hands? That's Benaiah. That's who Benaiah is. He's not a joke. He's Special Forces. He's SEAL Team 6, okay? That's who Benaiah is. Then Solomon sent Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, saying, go and fall upon him. That means go kill him. Verse 30. And Benaiah came to the tabernacle of the Lord and said unto him, thus saith the king, come forth. And Joab said, nay, but I will die here. I'm going to stay right here. And Benaiah brought the king word again, saying, thus said Joab, and thus he answered me. I don't really want to kill him in the church building, but that's what he said. Verse 31, and the king said unto him, Do as he had said. He wants to die there? Make it happen. And fall upon him and bury him, that thou mayest take away the innocent blood which Joab shed from me and from the house of my father. And the Lord shall return his blood upon his own head, who fell upon 2 men more righteous and better than he, and slew them with the sword, my father David not knowing thereof. Abner the son of Ner, captain of the host of Israel, and Amasa the son of Jether, captain of the host of Judah. Their blood shall therefore be turned upon the head of Joab, and upon the head of his seed forever. But upon David, and upon his seed, and upon his house, and upon his throne, shall there be peace forever from the Lord. So Benaiah the son of Jehoiada went up, and fell upon him, and slew him, and he was buried in his own house in the wilderness, and the king put Benaiah in his room over the host. In other words, he replaced Joab as the head general. Now that's Joab. Do you get a picture of that? You got a picture of who Joab is in your mind now? You understand who he is? You understand this all started with Asahel? Do you understand it all starts back where we were reading? And it goes all the way through that. I've often wondered what it must have been like for Adam and Eve to know that you blew it. Adam lived to be 930. He had a long time to think about it. I mean, everything that happens after that is going to be your fault. Everything. His own son gets killed by his other son. And he knows. Adam knows. I caused that. I opened the door to this happening. You're carrying others along for the ride. And that's listen, folks, I know that's an uncomfortable truth. I know it is. I know it is. But it's something that we've got to come to grips with. When we make decisions, it's not just us that's in it. It's others. For example, I try not to have road rage. I try not to be an angry driver. Pretty much, if I'm driving somewhere, though, I have my kids with me. Pretty much always. And so if I get angry driving, guess who I've got along for the ride? Guess who? A bunch of innocent little kids that don't even know what's going on. They don't even know the decisions I'm making. They don't even know that I should have the right to run down that person that just cut me off at the red light, and I should have the right to roll my window down and give them a piece of my mind. I'm just teasing about that, right? I shouldn't have that right. That person shouldn't have cut me off, but I have also got to control myself. Johnny texted me the other day. She was on her lunch break. She was at the intersection there where you can turn right and you go into KFC. And I guess somebody was coming out of Walmart. They had a green light and they didn't go. You ever had that happen? Where the other person doesn't go? That kind of irritating. You're in a hurry. You have a very limited amount of time on your lunch break, right, hon? I'm just picking on her this morning. That person didn't go. Johnny's trying to turn right and go into KFC. So she started to turn right. That person took off. Went across her, nearly ran into her. She texted me, she said, "Joe, I'm so mad." She said, "This person, yada, yada, yada," and told me everything that happened. So, she didn't have the kids with her. So she has every right. She's going to go up there and she's going to probably shoot the person. Things are going to escalate a little bit. It's no big deal, right? She's just getting even. It's not going to affect anybody. I mean, except for the person she shot. And that's the only person, right? It's not going to affect Johnny. I mean, she's not going to have nightmares from shooting the person, right? She's not going to have that. Oh, it's not going to affect the kids that weren't even with her, is it? I think about decisions that I made when I was a teenager, decisions that I made when I was younger, decisions that have impacted the rest of my life because it has developed my personality. Decisions that I didn't think were big decisions are impacting my kids today because they're part of who I am. Now, I'm glad that God is forgiving, and I'm glad that God is merciful. And He is. Okay? God is merciful. God is very forgiving. I'm glad I've been forgiven of my sins. But it's something that I think about all the time. See, when I was a teenager, I didn't think. In fact, I'll tell the young people in here, I had plans to not have any children ever. Those were my plans. I was going to build a big mansion in Montana on some mountainside somewhere. It was going to be like a cabin type of mansion thing. That was my plans. I was going to play football. I was going to be a starting quarterback for somebody. Just telling you what my plans were as a kid. Family? No. Nah, didn't have time for that. Needed to make a bunch of money. Needed to have a big house. Those were my plans. Right? Those were my plans. And then I met Jonica. She can tell you, when we first started dating, I told her I'm not really interested in having kids. I wasn't trying to be mean. I had never thought about it. I never thought I want to be a dad. That never occurred to me. It didn't. It simply didn't. But then we got married. Then we found out we were pregnant with Keithan. And it was exciting. I still didn't know what to think. I was still nervous. I didn't know what to think fully. But then Keithan was here. And I held Keithan. And I was like, this is amazing. But as a teenager, I never thought, you know what, I'm going to make decisions because I'm going to have children one day, and I want my decisions to be godly, and I want, because I'm carrying them along for the ride. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, because we've all failed. We have all sinned. There is no one in this room that's perfect. There's no one in this world that's perfect. Everybody's blown it. My kids don't even know that right now they are developing their personalities. When they're a little too lazy, when they complain, they don't even know that that's going to affect them as adults. They're going to start having that spirit. I'm all the time. You can ask my kids. I'm always like, hold on, how's your attitude? Oh, what's the big deal about an attitude? It affects your whole life. Be good if you can try to get that thing in check right now while you're younger, because it's very hard when you're 40. And your attitude affects your whole mindset. It affects if you're happy. It affects if you're joyful. It affects if you're always mad. I don't want to always be mad. I want to be happy. I want to be joyful. I can remember as a kid, I think it was peer pressure that caused me to start wanting to act like I was mad all the time. Act like I was cool all the time. That was how all the other kids acted. I wanted to be just like them. No. How about just be happy? How about just let God have His way in your life? How about just make some godly decisions? Ponder the path of your feet. I would have you this morning ponder the people that matter to you. When you're making decisions, think about your parents. What would they think? How would they feel about your decisions? How about your grandparents? Say, well, my parents don't care, my grandparents don't care. Somebody in there does. You have a family member that cares. I don't have time to go down the whole list. I know there's a family member that cares. I know there's people that care because I care. You realize people that have attended this church I've been here, how long have we been here, Johnny? 10 years? Do you realize how many people have come through those doors? And I remember them. There was a guy that visited here like 3 times total. Like the first year I was here. I still remember him. I still think about him. A lot. I wonder how, a lot of times I stop and wonder how he's doing. I hope he's doing all right. I care. If I read that he's passed on, or if I read something that bad has happened to him, it matters to me. It hurts me. I don't want him hurt. I don't want him in those situations. Do you see what I'm saying? There was who was it? Oh, I saw somebody in the newspaper the other day. A guy by the name of Dennis Para. I think he passed away at the age of 67. I worked with him 16 years ago. I hated seeing that. I mean, I just worked with him 16 years ago. Just a work acquaintance. Only spoke to him maybe 5 or 6 times. Still mattered to me. Hated to see that happen. My point is, you matter. I promise, you matter to somebody. I got to tell you, my nature is not to care. God has put that in there. I'm telling you, God cares about you. He cares about our decisions. He cares about the directions we're going in. I promise you He does. If you fight that, especially as a young person, if you fight that, you go in the wrong directions, and you don't get to blame God later. You don't get to. You just look in the mirror and you go, wow, I chose this. Parents, you matter to parents, you matter to grandparents. Listen, one day you're going to matter to your children. I have 6 of them. They compete to see who's going to give me a hug first in the morning. I don't deserve that. I accept it. Don't you get me wrong. I'm like, yeah, I love that they love me. But I'm not lovable. I'm very well aware of that. I'm glad they love me. God's been so good to me, been so merciful. I don't deserve it. You matter. You're going to matter to your children. You matter to your grandchildren. There was a time in my life I regretted a lot. I've mentioned it before. I think about my grandmother on my dad's side. I think about all my grandparents. Not that I don't, but there's my grandmother on my dad's side was constantly praying for me. Constantly trying to get me back in church. And I tried to pretend like I did not care about her. Because I wanted her to leave me alone. I think about her all the time. She matters to me a great deal. See, people try to convince themselves that our decisions aren't going to affect anybody else, that we don't matter to anybody else, that nobody matters to us. Wrong. You are very wrong. Aunts and uncles, nieces and nephews, schoolmates, siblings. I care about my brother. Yes. I said it. I'm not saying it again. I don't want it to go to his head. I can't tell him that very often, guys. It goes to his head. I do. I care about my family. I care about coworkers. I care about Choctaws. I care about people in Ireland. That's where the Carol name is from. I care about people everywhere. I do. It's not... The Lord's put that in me. I care about our nation. I care about our world. Just ponder the people that matter to you this morning. Stop and think about it. And then think about the directions you're going in. And think about the decisions you're making from here on out. You cannot change the ones in the past. You can't. And don't dwell on those. But what are you doing now? I can't change the fact that as a teenager I was a selfish punk who didn't want to have kids. I love that I've got kids. In fact, I can't imagine my life without them. What was I thinking? Where are you leading? Because you're leading somebody. What direction? What's your path? Ponder the path of your feet. If you've misled, if you've gone in the wrong directions at times, if you've made bad decisions, it has affected people. I promise you it has. There needs to be reconciliation. You need to try to make it right as best you can. You need to apologize. I'm glad that my parents have apologized to me for all their mistakes. Yeah. take that. Okay. There's been times I've had to apologize to my parents. And they were owed it. Where have you led? How have you affected people? For reconciliation, we talked about it last Sunday night. There's got to be forgiveness. There's got to be forgiveness. Nobody's perfect. Somebody's going to wrong you at some point, and you're going to wrong somebody. You've got to get in the habit of forgiving people. Because you want to be forgiven. Okay? Where are you leading, though? Stop and think about where you're going in your life. I can't tell you how often I have to stop and think about, hold on, where is Keith at in his life right now? Where is Theron at? Where is Brendan at? Who cares about the girls? No. Where is Kaylee at in her life right now? Where is Theslin? Where is Brindley? Where are they at? Am I leading them to the Lord? Are they seeing Christ in me? Where are you leading? I pray that the kids ignore my bad habits and embrace my good habits. They'll see them both. We need to ponder the paths of our feet. This morning, if you could take a moment and just think about the people in your life that matter to you, and just think about that, and ponder the direction you're going in. Think about the decisions you're making, and make some adjustments. Ask the Lord to help you for their sake. Even if you don't care about you. Say, well, I'm not harming anybody but me. Yeah, you are. You care about them, don't you? So give your life to the Lord this morning, if for no other reason, for them, for the people that matter to you. Can't think of a better reason to give your life to the Lord. I'm going to ask everyone to stand, every head bowed, every eye closed. I'm going to ask Brother Sonny to come.